The following podcast is part of the Never Nervous Network, a podcast network showcasing the best and brightest new shows coming out of Louisville, Kentucky. Catch up on all the local haps with the Never Nervous podcast. Get your horror movie fix with The House by the Video Store. Discuss hot button topics with the Parade of Horribles podcast. Hear an actual conversation on actual conversations, and then get wild with me, Sean Thriller Smith, on the Sean vs. Wild podcast. The Never Nervous Podcast Network is available on iTunes, so like, subscribe, rate, and review. Keep up to date on everything going on in Louisville, Kentucky with the Never Nervous Network. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Sean vs. Wild podcast. I'm your host, Sean Thriller Smith. Hope everyone had an awesome Easter weekend. Hope you guys got enough Reese's peanut butter eggs to hold you off until next year. I had a great weekend. Just going to tell you that right off the bat. Spent almost all of it in Indianapolis, hanging out with my family there. Went to the Kiss convention. If you're a big Kiss fan, I'm a huge Kiss fan. So I was there on Saturday. It was pretty awesome. Had a lot of great drinks while I was up there this weekend. Went to Upland. Great beer. The Upland Wheat is one of my absolute favorites, so I got to go up there and check that out. Also got a shout out to Sun King. That's my favorite beer. So went to Sun King and just hung out with family, got to have some drinks, listen to some awesome music. It was a great time. I just got back a few minutes ago, and I wanted to go ahead and record this. On the show today, I've got Zack Pennington. Zack Pennington's from the band Light Treasons. You might remember Light Treasons being mentioned all the way back in episode 1 with my interview with Clay Nevels. Clay's in Light Treasons. Zack's in Light Treasons also. But that's not our main focus today. Zack is kind of a marketing guru. He's got a lot of irons in the fire, and he's going to be talking about Light Treasons, but he's also going to be giving some awesome life advice, awesome marketing advice. So if you ever have a dream or a plan or something that you want to put into motion, this one's a really inspirational, motivational podcast, I should say. He's got a venue opening up here in the next couple weeks called Flying Axes, which is a venue where you throw axes. Pretty awesome. You'll hear him talk all about it. And that's really catching on. I mean, I saw, videos of Jason Momoa, from Game of Thrones and Aquaman or whatever, throwing a lot of axes. This is going to be the same type of scenario. So you can get together with your friends on a Friday or Saturday night, throw some axes, have a few beverages. It's going to be all good. He's going to be on the show today. And like I said, it's real inspirational, real motivational. So I'm very happy with how that turned out. Also, I got my Alvarez Kings album on Friday. Sounds awesome. If you haven't yet, pick it up. It's on Amazon, iTunes. It's everywhere now. It's called Somewhere Between. And last week's podcast is done awesome. I thank everybody for tuning into that. If you haven't yet, do so. You're going to find your new favorite band. So that's cool. Yeah, and if you haven't yet, please give me a 5-star rating on iTunes. Great segue there, bro. But yeah, all the ratings and reviews, I thank everyone that has done it. If you haven't, if you have a few moments, please feel free to do that. That's what the big wigs look for. Sponsors look for the ratings and reviews, and also the more ratings and reviews and positive feedback, the more visibility you have on iTunes, which means more listeners. So please do that. Big shout out to you guys for tuning in every single week. Big shout out to Never Nervous Network. Big shout out to Audiophile Inc. If you guys have shirts that you want to get printed, if you have booty shorts, if you have underwear, if you have tank tops, if you have hooded sweatshirts, whatever it is that you want to get printed, you're going to have to go to Audiophile Inc. It's going to be the best price in town. Tell them Sean sent you over there. He's going to do quality work. You're going to ask for Shane. He's going to do quality work there and give you the best price in town. So you can't beat that. And then also big thanks to Joe Brock for booping these dials. We're doing it a couple days early here, so he's really put off watching The Passion of the Christ with the fam to help me do this, which I really appreciate, Joe. And yeah, guys, this is going to be it for me. I thank you so much again for tuning in. Let's get wild. So, how's that vanilla chai latte?
It's actually amazing. I don't know if they're normally vanilla. I'm not actually a fancy person.
I'm not either. Well, and now I have to touch on a story here because I went through the drive-thru, and I'm not normally even a coffee purchaser. I like to, get my Maxwell House and make it my coffee maker.
Right.
But I was like, you know what? We're having a real early podcast. It's a little unconventional to have a podcast at 10 a.m. So I was like, I'm going to treat my guest to a delicious morning beverage. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to get an iced coffee, okay? And they're like, well, how would you like that? And I was like, I think I will have it plain. And they're like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, well, we have vanilla, mocha, caramel crunch, almond joy, fudge brownie, vanilla birthday cake, or plain. And I was like, yeah, plain. Still.
Yeah,
and they're like,
that was the first thing
And they're just like, okay, all right,
you're
man.
fucking lost.
Yeah, they're just like, oh, all right, dude. And I got it, and it's okay.
Are you allowed to be a snob at Dunkin' Donuts? Like, are you allowed to be that barista where you're like, fucking white trash piece of shit ordering a regular?
Oh my God, a regular coffee.
Yeah,
They
it's
probably
like-
wouldn't even know how to make it. I don't know.
You're like, I'm at a drive-through donut shop. Like, let's be real with each other right now.
But this iced coffee, it's pretty delicious. How's your chai lattes? All right?
Oh no, it's great. Which milk were you able to get?
The almond milk.
They had almond milk.
Yes, they did. America runs on Dunkin', brother.
Man, I was so nervous that they weren't going to have
I
almond
was
milk.
sweating bullets the whole time that I had to use 2%.
Yeah, ladies love the almond milk. So
You've told me that before. What is that?
I think it's just because every person who ever told me that almond milk was a thing was a woman. Like I drink it and I use it in cereal. I don't use regular milk, but I've always introduced to it by women who are like, "Oh yeah, don't have soy because it's too many estrogen and it'll give you boobs and stuff like that." And
That was my problem, man.
and don't have dairy. It's
soy overdose.
You're allergic or it's bad for you and you shouldn't have cow's milk. And they're like, now almond milk. And then the funny thing is I go off on this tangent in my mind where I'm like, but aren't almonds the reason that California doesn't have water? And then, but anyway, I just have almond milk.
See, it's the silent killer, almonds.
Yeah. And when I go to Heine Brothers, so I don't really drink coffee. I have in the past, but I'm just not super into it. And caffeine makes me a little weird, a little weirder, I should clarify. And yeah, so I'll go and I'm like, can I get a medium chai with almond milk? And they're like, all right, that'll be $347. I'm like, what did I just order?
Oh, you wanted a large?
Yeah,
$397.
and I tip $1.
Tip one.
Which,
yes, you didn't even tip 20%.
No, I can't tip. I can barely afford the drink, let alone to tip 20% on a $500 latte. So.
Yeah, sorry, it took 50% of my paycheck to buy this coffee.
Yeah.
So
No, I love chai. I think it's really good. I think the amount of caffeine is appropriate for someone like me who doesn't need uppers, but probably needs downers more than uppers. So
I just recently got into chai latte because we have a Keurig at work, and before everybody's like, dude, Keurig, it's not environmentally friendly.
Right.
I would just say, it's at work. I don't own it. And they happen to have these little chai latte cups. And I tried it, not knowing what chai latte was. I'm like, what is this, like a hot tea?
Yeah.
And then I drink it. I was like, oh, this is like a Christmas drink.
yeah, my shout out to my buddy Kartik, who's actually working on a chai vodka and gin right now.
Oh.
Like distilling a chai flavored gin and a chai flavored vodka. So yet unnamed, but keep an eye out for that. That should be pretty good here in Louisville.
Is it going to taste like Christmas?
It does taste like Christmas.
I feel like chai latte tastes like Christmas, or like
It
horchata.
does taste like
That
Christmas.
reminds me of horchata.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually really good. We were drinking. He brought me some samples. So this is, to put in perspective, my buddy Kartik. He's super successful. His family's very successful. He's run businesses since he was 9 years old or something. But he brings to Vent. We meet up at Vent Coffee, and he wants my advice on how to brand this product. And he's like, I brought you 2 samples. So I brought a whole bottle of chai gin and a whole bottle of chai vodka. So let's grab some cups and let's go sit on the porch and have these. And I'm just sitting there and I'm going, I feel like this is really illegal. Like, I feel like you can't walk into a coffee shop with your own full bottles of liquor that you
And
made.
they just have these.
That they're not even they haven't even been sold through distribution. Like, you literally I made this bathtub wine or whatever.
I just distilled this myself.
And then you just pouring it into a coffee cup for your friend on the patio. Didn't spend any money to do that. Like, I feel there was 13 levels of illegal there. But the thing is, he's the kind of guy that A, doesn't think about that, and B, would never get in trouble for it anyway.
Right.
He's so likable and lucky that it will never come back to haunt him.
happen.
Yeah, it'll just he'll be like, oh, I didn't know I could bring my own liquor, and they're like, oh, it's okay.
Like George Costanza would be like, was that wrong?
Yeah, exactly.
Should I not have done that?
Yeah, so that was a week ago. That was basically me sitting on a patio at 2 p.m. at a coffee shop trying gin straight. That was the other thing. We weren't even mixing. We're just doing shots of gin on the patio.
Just on the patio.
So, and that wasn't Vent Coffee, and I'm not Zack Pennington. Just to be clear, and his name is also not Kartik. Those were all made up names.
We've been protecting the innocent and the guilty in these parties.
There are no innocent.
There are no innocent parties. And guys, this is Sean Thriller Smith from the Sean vs. Wild podcast. In case you thought you were tuning into the Dunkin Donuts coffee hour, this is indeed the Sean vs. Wild podcast. On the show today, I have got Zack Pennington, guitarist of Light Treasons, but also I'm having you on here because of your business mind. You're a businessman.
I'm a business man.
I'm a business, man.
I think Jay-Z coined that phrase.
I think I've heard of him, Jay-Z.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's the other famous person with a Z in his name.
He's a hip-hopper.
He's hip-hopopotamus.
The hip-hop anonymous. Gotcha. Yeah, but you've got a lot
Beyonce's boyfriend, right?
I think so. I've heard of Beyonce.
Yeah, she's the famous one.
Gotcha.
Can you imagine being Jay-Z?
Yeah,
it's like
you are having.
I've sold 10 #1 albums, and people are like, "Could you hold her purse, please?"
Yes, I imagine that Jay-Z is very well respected, but also just kind of shadily or snidely, just low key disrespected because of Beyonce.
Well, I think it's like Jay-Z is. I'm trying to think of another celebrity comparison. It's kind of like when you remember when Farrah Fawcett died.
Yeah, and then Michael Jackson died the same
day. And Michael
day.
Jackson died like 12 hours later, and it was like, in today's news, the most tragic, devastating loss of Farrah Fawcett. Let's look back through. Holy fucking shit, Michael Jackson just died.
Cut the video, guys.
Cut the video, and it's like literally no one even remembers or cared that. And it's like Farrah Fawcett was awesome. I love Farrah Fawcett. Is all that stuff. But it's like, can you imagine being like the 1,000th most famous person, and then like the first or second most famous person in the world dies the same day, and it's like, well, fuck my life,
dude. That would be my luck. I actually just had a conversation at work, kind of a morbid conversation to have at work, but all this inclement weather that we've been having, all this bad weather, and there's a new hire at work that is like really afraid of storms, and I was just like, well, hey man, if you're gonna go. Like going out on a tornado is actually pretty cool because you could be that guy that walks out the door and like the blue ice from an airplane, like. Falls on your head and you're dead because a hunk of frozen shit.
Right.
Like,
or maybe you get to ride the tornado for a few minutes before you die. Like that could probably be one of the most amazing. It's a hard experience to have.
Right.
I mean, how many people have ridden a tornado, right? Like hundreds.
Yeah.
I don't actually
Bill
know the number.
Paxton, he did it in the documentary Twister.
Yeah. And that didn't kill him.
Exactly. He lived another 20 years after that.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean,
tornado enthusiasts out there, just strap on a belt to an iron pole and you'll survive.
On the topic of morbid and tornadoes, I've always felt like natural disasters are the right time to kill people.
Dang, never thought about that.
Like, to get away with it, right? And I'm actually a very peaceful person. I have no grudges or anything, but I imagine if you
if I had beef.
Right. I imagine if you found someone with like a stray piece of rebarb through them right after a tornado, you'd be like, it was the tornado. No one's going to swab that for DNA and be like, oh, clearly this was a hate crime or a gang murder or something. They're like, tornadoes kill people. What
guys, if you're listening to this, this is a horrible idea. Don't do it, but it makes sense.
Disclaimer.
Disclaimer.
I've yet to prove that it works. Let's just put it that way.
I have not tested this theory.
It was actually inspired by Lil Wayne because he talked about how during Katrina a bunch of people were killed, like gang beef. Like people basically were like, oh, there's no government right now. Like, let's just shoot each other. And, and so there's like 80 to 100 unsolved murders from Katrina just because shit was so fucked up. So that was where I was like, oh yeah, floods, natural disasters, tornadoes. Those seem like good times to like purge.
Man, I didn't even think about that. I will tell you, because of the storm last night, the door of my gate randomly fell off. When I went to go to Dunkin Donuts, I was like, oh, I have a large hole in my fence where the gate door was.
Is the gate still around, or is it in your neighbor's yard? Or
no, it just fell off.
It's just right there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
and every time it storms, I don't know. Shout out to whoever's in the neighborhood that likes to smoke Swisher Sweets, but it just seems like somebody in the neighborhood smokes them, throws the packaging everywhere, and every time it storms, it ends up in my front lawn.
Yeah, that makes sense. I used to live at the top of a hill in just like a cookie cutter suburban neighborhood, and our trash cans would always like roll down the hill anytime there was any wind.
Right.
So I'd have to go get my trash can like 5 houses down.
Right. Can you imagine if like it just trash everywhere?
Yeah, luckily it was usually only the empty trash cans because they were heavy enough when there was trash in them. So it was like the next day our lid would just be like 30 houses away. And I'm like, and of course, everyone had the same generic, like Rubbermaid trash cans.
Right.
So you're like, I think that's my black 47-gallon
Trash
Rubbermaid
can.
lid. But
Let me spray paint my house number on
yeah,
it
we
next
never
time.
thought to do anything like put a piece of tape on it or, carve your initials in the top.
And guys, Zach has a lot of irons in the fire. That's why I'm having him on the show today, just to kind of get back on topic. OT, that's off topic, but let's get back on topic.
Okay.
So
Also known as OT.
also
It's a
known
very
as OT,
confusing
aka
abbreviation.
also OT,
Yeah.
OT2.
The other kind of OT.
OT2 Judgment Day. But not only do you play guitar in Light Treasons, but like I said, you're a business, man, and you've got a lot of irons in the fire. You've got
Sure.
Flying Axes, which is a venue that's going to be opening up soon, which I'm so stoked when I heard about it. Tell the listening audience, what is Flying Axes? I don't want to spoil it. I want you to give the grand spiel on it. You're the COO, my man.
Well, the funny thing about giving the grand reveal is it's kind of in the name.
I said spiel. Doesn't that just make it sound like, oh, you're trying to sell snake oil? I don't like saying the word spiel. Sometimes people say that to me at work.
Shtick is a good one.
Give me your shtick, brother.
Yeah, exactly. he's got this whole shtick on the Flying Axes. Yeah, no, I think so. Flying Axes is an axe throwing venue, right? So wrapping your mind around the three words in that order, because a lot of people haven't heard them in that order before. So imagine you're playing darts with your buddies, but instead of using these little 3-inch metal darts, you're using 14-inch, 2.5-pound axes. So you're taking the axe, putting your hands, pulling it behind your head, and you're hurling it at a wooden target. It's got a big bullseye painted on it. And you get points every time you score. It sticks in the board. You get 5, 3, 1 points. And then you're competing head to head. So it's like bowling, golf, darts, pool, all that kind of stuff. Cornhole, but with axes.
Yeah, the element of danger just really entices me. I feel
Yeah,
like.
that's what's really fun about it is it feels really dangerous, but the way we've set it up, it's actually really safe.
Right.
So we have cages, so there's walls on either side of you. There's a coach that's in your lane that's teaching you how to throw, enforcing safety rules. There's a certain area where you can and can't be while you're throwing. There's like rubber mats. So there's a lot of stuff in there to make it, not
100%
super dangerous.
safe.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, you are holding an axe. It is heavy. It's not super sharp, which is another reason why it's kind of safe. But it's a wedge. So when you throw it, it'll, stick into wood.
Some wood, yeah.
Yeah, and if it got thrown at you, it would not feel good.
Right, but it wouldn't, take out a limb or anything like that. Maybe a finger.
Depends on who threw it and how. If
Maybe
Jason
Momoa.
Momoa threw it at you, you would just that would be on your tombstone. It would read, here's the last throne he'd ever sit on or something. Yeah, so I mean, it's definitely it is dangerous, but again, we've created an environment where it's safe and fun, and it's super. Trying to think of the word to describe it. It's super cathartic and it's super visceral, meaning, I play a lot of apps, games on my phone, and they're fun and they're addictive and they have these like kind of, oh man, I just lost, that sucks, blah, blah, blah. But like when you throw a fucking axe at a board and it sticks, you like jump, you like physically, you're like, yeah, and like get into it. And I'm not a sports fan, right? So like that was the appeal for me is I went and did this in Toronto, which is where it really kind of started to get popular and become like a formal thing. People have been throwing axes in their yard for
Since the Vikings.
hundreds and millions.
The
of
Vikings
years.
were in their front yards just throwing axes.
Yeah, and they're freshly manicured.
They've been
bluegrass.
mowing their lawn and throwing axes.
After mowing their lawn with axes, they would then take the stump that they bought at Pottery Barn and set it on its side, and then throw a best made, high end hipster axe right at it. Yeah, so that's kind of it's been around for a while. But again, what appealed to me is I go up to Toronto. Some buddies of mine here, who ultimately became my business partners, had said, "Hey, we're thinking about starting an axe throwing venue." And I said, "That sounds fucking weird. Let me think about it."
Yeah.
I was kind of like,
Let me get back to you on it.
I was like, it didn't hit me right away.
Right.
And I think part of why it didn't hit me right away was because, again, I'm not a sports person.
Right.
I stopped playing sports probably 6th grade or something like that. I was only ever decent at hockey, and that was only because I liked rollerblading, which shows how manly I am.
I loved fruit booty.
Yeah, I fruit booted so hard. My real skater friends used to give me so much shit for it, but I still played Tony Hawk though. So.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I crossed over.
I
To
knew
the
a lot
dark
of
side.
things about skateboarding because of Tony Hawk.
Yeah.
Rodney Mullen, great skater.
I could
Tony Hawk
I could ollie
and in real life.
I could ollie.
I never could do anything.
But I could like barely roll down a hill without falling. It was like I could ollie in my flat driveway, but that's it. Like on my friend's driveway, you might as well just chop my arms off. Like that's how uncoordinated I was. But yeah, so used to skate, but that was about it. So wasn't super into sports. And even now I don't really watch sports. You know, I'll watch March Madness because that's interesting to me. And you know,
Super Bowl.
I went to U of L, so like I kind of care what happens to them. But the big thing for me was it was a game. And so I go up with these guys to Toronto, and we're in a bachelor party. There's 14 of us. And the group of guys is kind of a cross-section of what I would call your stereotypical 30-year-old young professional man.
Right.
We got dentists, lawyers, hedge fund manager, tech software people work at Humana, people, you know, it's like just kind of your average dudes, not like super.
People just drinking old fashions.
Yeah, people who drink old fashions, right?
Gotcha.
Not necessarily like your cool like Kevin Fletcher types.
Oh yeah, right.
You know, it was more like your kind of we wish we were as cool as the band dudes, but we were like we listened to that music, but we never played it except for me, of course. But it was like that kind of group, right? And so we go up, and some of the guys are athletic, some of them are runners and whatever, but we're all just kind of average dudes in that sense. And we're playing, and we're getting super fucking into it. And like my one buddy's friend, the bachelor, his good friend, who's a dentist, is like really thin, really clean cut, like tucks his shirt in when he's around his friends. You know what I mean? Like that kind of guy.
Tuck my shirt in, man. My friends are going to judge me.
Yeah.
Is that my shirt out?
No, you got to have your shirt out. Got to rock out with your shirt out. But he's like fucking crushing it. And I'm going, so I had already heard about the business idea from my buddies down here. And I'm looking around and going, this is a thing.
Yeah. I think you guys are way ahead of the curve.
And that dude, and then that giant dude across the way with a huge beard and like 30 tattoos, if all three of us are into it, this is a thing.
Yeah, and can you imagine like the diversity of your axe throwing team?
Oh, totally. Yeah, and that's so my girlfriend's 4'11", and she's just as good at it as I am. Like there's not an advantage. So we would play basketball together, and she's actually better at basketball than I am, but I'm just so tall.
that you can just dunk on her?
I not even dunk. She just can't shoot. Like I literally just stick my hand up, and it's the laws of physics prohibit her from shooting over me, right? So it's like it's not fun for us to play. But when we're axe throwing, like being 4'11", being 70 years old, like if you can throw, you can throw. It's just it's form, it's not power, it's not size, and that's what I liked about it. And that's kind of what I always hated about sports was I was small until it didn't matter. Like I finally got sports sized when I was like 21 or something. At that point, it was like I was uncoordinated.
Must be nice. 5'5".
Yeah. You know, Muggsy Bogues though?
5'3". That's true.
So
Charlotte Hornets, 1996. Does that make it?
I had a starter jacket. I had the starter jacket.
Yeah. Well, thanks to NBA Jam, much like how Tony Hawk, like I learned about skateboarding, I learned a little bit about NBA in the mid '90s thanks to NBA Jam and NBA Jam Tournament Edition.
The fact that Michael Jordan was not a default character.
Hey man,
biggest oversight of that franchise.
Well, it's because Jordan has his own thing, man. He couldn't be in any video games in the 90s unless they were Jordan video games.
He was too rich.
So we got, Jordan versus
He
Bird.
wasn't relatable.
He was just too high up the
kids with the Sega Genesis.
They're not going to know who Michael Jordan is.
They've never heard of the Michael Jordan. He's too rich. They don't.
He's just too rich. He's that baseball player.
Yeah, they barely know who the Monopoly Man is, and Michael Jordan has way more money than he does.
So, yeah, and I feel like you're ahead of the curve on the axe throwing thing because honestly, I had just kind of heard about axe throwing.
Yeah.
Through, of course, like we mentioned Jason Momoa, just like his YouTube videos or like the fact that he was like on Jimmy Fallon and has like an axe. He like threw an axe on Jimmy Fallon or what have you. But that was like the first exposure just a few months ago, and now we have one right here in Louisville, and I can only imagine. I can't imagine that there are too many even in the region.
Competition. So there's none in Kentucky that we know of. I haven't seen or heard of any in Kentucky, so I think we're the first. I'm pretty sure we're the first. There in Canada, there's by our count about 40 across a couple dozen brands. Two of the brands have about 10 locations each, and then in the U.S. there's probably about 6 or 7.
I was trying quietly to not have the ice roll around, and I just knew it was a bad idea. I was like, I'm just going to...
Let me casually set this... Oh, and it just fell over. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it did fall over. Now it's back erect.
I'm trying not to...
Upright.
I'm trying not to blow on my iced chai too loud.
That's all right, guys.
For the people at home who wonder what that wind sounded.
That is a vanilla chai latte with almond milk.
Can you smell the breeze? Yeah, so there's probably, like I said, 6 or 7 in the U.S., but there's going to be a lot more. They're starting to pop up faster and faster. And what we're trying to do is we're all from Louisville, me and the other founders, but we want to make multiple. So Louisville's going to be our first. Then likely Covington, Cincinnati, that area is going to be our second one. Then probably Nashville, kind of spread out from there.
Yeah.
Indy, Columbus, But the thing that's fun about axe throwing is it's a game that it's a repeatable skill that you can master over time. So in that sense, it's more similar to golf or bowling or whatever. And what we're hoping is what we've seen in Canada. So one of the brands in Canada has been around for 10 years. One of them that has 10 locations. Mm-hmm. So they've kind of proven that it's a long-term sustainable thing.
Right. There's longevity to it.
Yeah, and I imagine, I'm not naive, I imagine some people will only ever do it once.
Right.
But our goal is to expose as many people as possible to it. I actually do need to, hold on, give me 1 second. I got to let this person in.
You gotta let somebody in using your phone? Dude,
Yeah.
what kind of space age technology did you just hit me with? What digital witchcraft did you just do right here on the podcast?
I'm about to show off how bougie of a person I am. But I just
excuse me, hold on. I gotta
have
let
to
this
buzz
person
my
in.
cleaning lady into my apartment. So long story short, I did the math, and it is much cheaper for me to hire someone to clean our apartment than it is for me to spend the time to do it myself. I know that sounds horrible, but
What's great is I was like I said, I just kind of moved into this room, and we just got like a kegerator for the house.
Yeah, those are
and
great.
so there's still like boxes and stuff like that. And I was just like, man, I really should have straightened up. And then I was like, oh, Zach's coming over. He's a band guy. Certainly he's used to a little untidiness. And then you're like, well, I've got a cleaning lady that cleans my house every day. It's like, damn it, blew that one.
not every day.
She cleans it every day,
Yeah,
twice a day.
It's actually 3 times a day. She comes over
Not every day, twice a day.
during lunch and catches the crumbs as they fall out of my mouth. No, yeah, every I think 3 or 4 weeks. But yeah, and that was also a gift to my girlfriend. I was like, hey, look, I know you and I got a lot going on right now.
Happy Valentine's Day.
It was. I'm pretty sure. No, maybe it was a birthday present. But I was like, I'm gonna buy. That sounds horrible. I'm gonna pay for a cleaning service for at least a year to come and see if you like it. And she was like, oh, that's awesome. So, some women are super offended by that. So you have to kind of gauge. If you have a female partner, you have to gauge their interest, because some women are like, oh my God, that's the best thing ever. And some are like, what are you saying? I can't keep our house clean. It's like, whoa, I didn't say that.
What I'm saying is you should live in spoils and be pampered and not trouble yourself with that sort of thing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a touchy subject for some people, just depending on how they were raised and what they think or whatever. But luckily, me and my girlfriend are both really cool with it. It's like, hey, if we can focus on our jobs and our other stuff, and then this is one less thing to worry about. And it's actually not that expensive. I think we pay like $55 a month.
Dude, totally worth it. I'm actually, now that you've said that, I might just look into it, because as two bachelors that like literally, my roommate Evan and I, like literally, we have two opposite work schedules.
Right.
So he'll work really early, I'll work really late, and we never
You can't run the vacuum.
We see each other for like 15 minutes a day.
Right.
And yeah, we're messy. That would be good. Maybe I will look into that.
And the other thing too is I think that a lot of people get hung up on that concept, because it's like, oh, like why would I pay? Like I shouldn't make that poor person clean my house. Like my house is dirty. That's gross. It's like some people actually enjoy cleaning, and also it's a source of employment for someone. So
Right.
it's
That's
like,
true.
if that's what they want to do, or that's how they make money, like you're not a bad person for paying them to do that job, especially because people get paid real wages in the US and stuff like that. It's not like I'm hiring someone for $1 an hour to do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, some people get hung up on. They're like, I don't know, man. Like I wouldn't clean someone else's house. It's like, right, but you probably aren't like you don't clean houses for a living.
Right.
We had a house cleaner when I lived with a bunch of other people, and again, that was part of the thing is we had 6 people living in a house, and it's like, how do you divide up chores?
Yeah.
So it was more fair for all of us to pitch in $50 a month and hire a house cleaner.
Well, could you imagine though, too, like people don't like to clean the house, but if you find somebody that doesn't mind cleaning,
Yeah.
I mean, and say they make $100 per house,
Yeah.
and they do it 7 days a week.
No, it's
Or
good
even-
money,
I
especially
mean-
if you do it for yourself. Like if you're self-employed and you charge the rates and you kind of get the full rates. Like,
Right.
yeah, our cleaning guy at our last place was making probably $400 to $500 working like 3 or 4 days a week.
Yeah, totally worth it.
It's not bad.
No.
Get to put on headphones, listen to podcasts, and just like hang out.
Dude, that's why I love cutting the grass. People are like, why are you so into
I hate
cutting the
cutting the
grass?
grass.
I love it.
No, I know most
Because I just put on the podcast and then just take off. Push mow. I love to push mow the grass, man.
Oh, really?
I don't ride on the lawnmower or anything like that.
I ain't no highfalutin riding mower, motherfucker.
I ain't no fancy riding lawnmower, man. I just push.
And if I am, I don't have power steering.
hell no, man.
Hell no, man. How do you think I got these forearms,
Dude,
man?
I just use the whirling blades with the two wheels. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, the scissor cut. Where
I
it's
wish I could do that. Actually, I don't wish. I'm sure that it's probably just a way more pain in the ass. I do use a gas mower. Guys.
We had a buddy of ours who pushed mode and manual. That's what you're talking about, like the old fashioned manual one. And we were all like, "You're a lawyer. You make like $500 an hour. We feel like you could find someone to mow your grass for cheaper than." He was like, "It's literally the only exercise I do."
Yeah, right.
He's this like super skinny guy who's like, I sit all day at work. He's like, it's the one thing a week where I'm like physically exerting myself, so I kind of need it.
Dude, my uncle, who's probably listening, I remember him telling me this story about like his neighbor. Like he lives in a really nice. He's well to do. He lives in a really nice neighborhood in Indianapolis, and I guess his neighbor across the way was like, we want to be more environmentally conscious, and we're thinking about doing the scissor cut push mower instead of getting an electric one or whatever. And he said that he just looked outside and he saw this poor guy struggling for hours with that scissor cut lawnmower, and then the next week, he's got a gas-powered lawnmower, never to be seen cutting his grass with a scissor mower again.
Well, I also love, on the topic of environmentalism, I try to be environmentally friendly. I'm not like a hardcore person just because it's not that I'm not hardcore in my beliefs. It's that I'm not hardcore in my actions.
Right, yeah.
Like I'm 100% like, I think the environment is probably the most important thing we should focus on. Because
obviously,
if we don't have an earth, we don't have humans, that kind of thing. But obviously, like I drive a Prius, but it's still a Prius. Like
my uncle drives a Prius.
Yeah, but you know what I mean?
Dolphin
it's like
gray.
It's still a car. It still gets gasoline. It still uses energy. Like, I could walk more places than I do. Like, I get that. But I love when someone having a lawn. Like, lawns are one of the most, like, environmentally terrible things you could own. Like, it's literally, like, grass is functionally useless. And, like, you spray chemicals and you use water. And it's, like, literally just having dirt in your front yard is actually better for the environment.
That's true.
Or just let the grass grow. The irony is grass would be valuable if you let it grow and just kind of be its own weeds and all that stuff, and it'll like self-pollinate and do all this good stuff. But people are like, I need to go buy $5,000 worth of sod.
Yeah.
But I'm going to use a push mower.
Right.
Because I don't want to harm the earth. And you're
right.
Like, I don't think you understand how
Too
the earth
late,
works.
buddy.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's get back on the topic, though, of flying axes, because somehow we just took a left turn into lawn care.
Yeah.
And which
one and the same.
That happens. But
we were talking about how the Vikings used to cut their grass
with axes.
It all comes. It's full
circle.
Dude,
full circle. I love how we did that. So you guys will be opening up tentatively here in the next few weeks.
Yeah. So the goal was end of April. We're still waiting on some permits and building stuff from the city. That's kind of slowed us down a little bit. Fortunately, I think a lot of people are like, oh, you haven't gotten a permit because it's super dangerous. And we're like, no, we haven't gotten a permit because it took us way too long to submit our plumbing drawings. Like, we're converting in a completely empty warehouse into a retail consumer facility. And so there's a lot of things that have to happen when you change the use of a building.
Right.
So, like, there were no toilets.
Yeah, exactly.
Or not even no toilets, no plumbing, right? So it's like literally an empty storage warehouse. So heating and air, plumbing, like all this stuff. So it's just taken a lot more time and money than we anticipated, but that's part of construction. So we kind of anticipated that it would.
Right.
And we're getting close to being back on schedule, but it's just been a little bit slower than we thought.
Dude, my roommate is so into axes. That's such a weird thing to say, but he is so stoked.
I had no idea how into axes people were until I started this, and like out of the woodwork, people were like, "Oh yeah, I own like 12 axes," and I'm like, I've known you 30 years, and you just now
I've never seen your axe collection, sir.
And they're like, you've never been in that room in the basement that I don't let anyone in? I'm like,
the one with all the chains?
Yeah, exactly.
And axes?
It's like the first season of Dexter when you notice how like high-tech the guy's door is. And they're like, it's kind of weird to have that many locks on one door.
Right, exactly. Dude, my roommate, literally, Evan, shout out, you know it, but he's in total anticipation of this place opening, and his whole circle of friends.
Oh, awesome.
Mind you. So I can't wait for it to open. I want to be like, hey, I know Zach. Let's all go.
The axe mafia is going to show up at the door.
He's been sharpening his tomahawks, bro.
Yeah, so we're doing like one-off events where you could book a group, double date, bring a coworkers, huge
birthday party,
bachelor, bachelorette, wedding, whatever you want to do there. But starting the summer, we're going to do leagues. And I think that's going to be the really cool thing for like locals because it'll be cheaper. It'll be more frequent. You know, come in on Tuesday night, spend $10, buy a few beers, you know, hang out, score some points, come up with a cool name, get cool shirts. Like, it's just like bowling, but again, more badass than bowling.
Bowling, you've heard it. The gauntlet's been thrown down. Axe throwing, they claim to be more badass than bowling.
We're coming for you.
So, yeah. And we're about in the 30-minute mark here of our conversation. So this is typically where I like to play a little music. And you are the guitarist of Light Treasons.
I am.
And we had Clay on the very first episode of Sean vs. Wild, premiering a new Light Treasons song. You guys are still in the process. I know you guys are like releasing singles one after the other, and then you'll have a full-length album out.
So yeah, we halfway through that, we abandoned that process.
Scrap that idea, guys.
Yeah, the short version of it is we were talking to Puckett about releasing the album, and he was like, well, stop releasing singles so that we can release the whole album. And we're like, all right, good idea. And then
when he passed away,
he passed away before we really did anything. We were, actually supposed to meet with him that Sunday. And, so anyway, so that kind of made us, we rethought our strategy. We were like, you know what, we'll hold it back. We'll release the whole album at once. So we've released 3 of the 9 songs, and we're about to release the other 6 in like the summer. So
right. Well,
we're finishing them right now. We just were in the studio last week with Jordan.
With Jordan Haynes.
Jordan Haynes, who's also been on the podcast.
He's also been on the podcast,
I've
guys.
listened to that episode as well. So,
and anybody listening, if you want to have the rat, he didn't pay me for this endorsement, but I'm going to give you the endorsement because if
Jordan
you want to,
has paid me in blood, sweat, and tears.
Exactly, dude. He's put up with a lot of our nonsense.
Yeah,
we should say. So yeah, if you want to have a great sounding demo, you're going to hit up Jordan Haynes. That's for sure. Or a great sounding, not even a demo, album, whatever.
I don't think you can do a demo with Jordan because he gives too much of a shit to let you do a demo.
Yeah. It's never going to sound
He'll
like
be
a demo.
Hey, so can we make this demo like radio quality?
Yeah. Hey, it'd be like going to, like Rick Rubin, be like, hey, man, can you lay down this demo track for me?
Hey, man, can you turn on that ADAT and cut me a 4-track real quick?
Brother, can you make this happen, brother? So, well, let's go ahead and check out the new single.
Yeah,
from Light Treasons, The Romantic.
Yep.
And guys, enjoy The Romantic by Light Treasons. All right, everybody. That was Light Treasons with their new single, The Romantic. What a nice little ditty you got there, Zach.
Thanks.
Thanks. Dude, during the break, we had there was a whole thing with a refrigerator.
There was a
crisis.
There was
meltdown.
a crisis, meltdown, DEFCON 4 or whatever.
And we determined that if Chris O'Donnell and Dolph Ziggler fucked, that would be you.
If they had a man-child.
If they had a child together using their DNA, that would be you.
They can build me.
Yeah, exactly.
They have the technology.
They have the technology.
Yeah.
So,
the refrigerator. The good news is we will have a refrigerator at Flying Axes for our cold beer.
This is an exclusive, guys. You heard it first. There will be the coldest beer at Flying Axes.
And it will be thoroughly refrigerated.
We just got a kegerator for our house. I mentioned that earlier.
Yeah.
And in having a draft beer as soon as you get off work, there's not a better feeling.
I worked in a co-working space where we had a kegerator, and so we would, at the end of the workday, like 3 p.m. or whatever, we'd all go start drinking.
Around 3 o'clock.
When things start winding down for startups. So we'd all usually have our 3 o'clock beer and then our 5 o'clock ping pong, and then we'd start working again at 6 or 7. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, what's great is it's all tax deductible for me. This is a business, and I have my guests on, and I saved my receipt from Dunkin Donuts, and I saved my receipt for the keg. And
if you include the cost of my chai latte, your adjusted gross income's like negative $4,000.
So I'll have to have you work on that. Right now, all I'm doing is just saving receipts, aka collecting trash.
2 tax returns ago, my adjusted gross income because of my businesses was negative $22,000. That's how much money I made 2 years ago.
That's great, dude. I'm going to need you to assist me.
Yeah.
In the ways.
Well, the funny thing is I'm not even like good at that. Like I have a friend who's really good at that. Who's like, I found a way to live in a house that my business owns, and then I rent my car from myself. Like he knows all the crazy, rich people loopholes and stuff. I'm not good at that stuff. We just we lost money as a business. And like, since you own it, you get to take the losses, which is good for your taxes and bad for your bank account. So,
right.
But yeah, it's, I think the biggest thing to think about with taxes, and I'm feeling it this year, is save money to pay them, right? Like,
right.
I know it sounds like common sense, but depending on how you get paid as a business or how frequently or how much, like just setting aside money in an account that you don't touch is the smartest thing you can do, as a person anyway, but as a business especially.
Man, I wasn't expecting all this life advice here on this podcast today, and you're just delivering, man.
I try to help as many people as I can, as often as I can, so.
I feel like that's the truth, and you've got just a sharp business mind. And not only are you're doing Flying Axes and you're doing Light Treasons, which I know we're just basically touching on just kind of briefly, but you also have Herelancer.
Yeah.
Can you explain to the listeners what Herelancer is?
Yeah, so Herelancer is a freelance and agency marketplace for local creative and technical talent. A simpler way to say that is if you need help with something and you don't know who could help you with it, post it on Herelancer and we'll find someone. And the big thing that makes us different is we focus on the market that the clients are in. So in our case, we're focused on Louisville for now.
Right.
So we just started the business in December, my partner Rachel and I, and we're trying to find clients that need help with something, let's say developing a new website or marketing plan or whatever, but they don't want to go online and hire someone on Fiverr because they either don't know about it or don't trust it or don't know how to even communicate.
Or you get what you pay for $5.
You get what you pay for. And, it's just, for some people, dealing with overseas talent is more work than it's worth, even for the cost savings. And so a lot of people want to work with someone they can meet with and talk to and have a relationship with. And so we're just trying to foster those connections locally and then start in Louisville and then spread out from there.
It's such a great idea because, most of the time I'm just like, I'll be like, hey, really need a website done.
Right.
And then you post on Facebook about it, and they're like, hey, well, my cousin Timmy does Facebook stuff.
Not my cousin, but his dog's neighbor.
Yeah.
Right. It's always like 17
They
degrees.
They got the Photoshop. They're in the Photoshop every day, and they could probably build you a website using, or people will just be like, hey, man, why don't you just use, such and such free thing?
Yeah.
And you're like, man, when you want to appear professional, you got to put in the professional effort.
Well, and the thing is, all the free website builders have done is they've taken the laborious process of making simple things like that are actually, it's extremely complex to make something simple, right?
Right.
And so they've taken that process out, but they haven't, even with templates and stuff like that, they haven't actually created taste. Like you have
Right.
to have taste, and you also have to have an understanding of what your audience is and what your content should be.
Yeah,
so
that's
I could
true.
use a website builder and make the website look really good, but if it doesn't actually serve the needs of the business, then it's fucking useless. You know what I
Right.
mean? And so hiring a freelancer who understands that stuff is still valuable. And if anything, they can do it faster and cheaper than ever before because they're using the same technology that you would.
Right, exactly.
So like if you hire someone and they build you a marketing website from scratch, like they're doing it wrong. Like they should be using WordPress, they should be using Squarespace, they should be using Wix or whatever. But they should be helping you figure out what you need, how you should lay it out, how you should design it, what's useless, what's not, and they should also be able to do it a lot faster than you can. So there's kind of a couple of values there. But yeah, I mean like you shouldn't have someone like, all right, HTML
Let me
background color equals
00FF 1G.
1G. Okay. And background tag, right? Like no one's doing that anymore unless your product is the software that you're selling. Like you shouldn't be building websites. Like I use WordPress for almost everything, but I modify themes and templates and whatever to serve the needs of my project or my company or my product or whatever. And that's actually the hard part now. The hard part used to be building the stuff. Now that's gotten easy.
Right.
Now the hard part is, does your stuff appeal to your clients, or does it actually serve the purpose that you're building it for?
Exactly. I'm trying very hard to get in more, just be more disciplined when it comes to my web presence, because before it's like, hey, I'll post, once a week about the podcast, and then
Right.
it'll be like, hey, I'll post every couple days about the show. Now it's like, man, you got to realize that to hang in today's market, you got to like post like multiple times per day.
Yeah.
Content, but also even content that's like it's relevant, but also stuff that's like kind of irrelevant to your cause, but just similar. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like on my Twitter, like I got to post about like other interests that I have multiple times a day.
Yeah.
Just to kind of to not berate people with what you're doing, not like 5 times a day, be like, listen to the new podcast.
And even that's kind of weird to me, just because I see a lot of brands do that, and to some extent, one of my companies especially does that. But I don't know. I'm torn because I think that as that wasn't a glitch in this. That was a glitch in my brain. That's not Joe Brock fucking this up. That's literally my brain just stopped working in the middle of a sentence. As the internet gets noisier, meaning there's just more stuff on it,
Right.
more people contributing, right? That's kind of Web 2.0 is, hey, websites could be commented on by other people, like people can add content, Wikipedia, Facebook, etc. I think that quantity is still not going to win. I think that quality is going to win. And I say that because anytime I've just seen from my own Facebook usage, not from any of my
Right.
companies. If I write a post where I'm like, hey, here's some really insightful, authentic, real shit that I'm thinking right now, or I'm feeling, or experience I just had, hundreds of likes, shares, even, dozens of shares or whatever. If I'm like, hey, I saw this article about memes, check it out, like 12 likes, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
that stuff exists, and the irony is that stuff gets a lot of shares from those type of like meme Facebook pages or whatever. But
Right.
I think what people are searching for more than anything is something human to relate to. And so that's actually what I like about your podcast, and the podcast that I do listen to is they're not, what's the word I'm looking for? They're not marketing optimized.
Right. Yeah.
It's not like, you won't believe what on the next episode of Sean versus Wild.
Right.
Right? Although you can totally do that if you want. But like,
I probably will. Joe, you're listening.
Right.
So go ahead and edit that in.
yeah,
guys.
go ahead. Wow. Oh, wait, if I do the delays, then it's harder for him to do them. But you know what I mean? Like, people want to hear and read and watch things that they can relate to and things that are relevant. And I don't know, man. I know there's people like Gary Vee who posts like 1 million pieces of content a day. And then there's people like Simon Sinek who he posts like little like quotes and stuff from his thing, but he's written like 3 or 4 books. He's given like 3 or 4 TED Talks. And in a lot of ways, he's like almost as popular as Gary Vee.
Right. Yeah.
Because what he says is so fucking accurate and it's so prolific that it's like you only have to say it once.
Right. Exactly. And
like,
he's just not breaking his back trying to, post.
Beat a dead horse.
Yeah.
And he's not trying to beat a dead horse. And if you see him on TV or you see him whatever, he'll say he has consistency in his message, which is like, people need to feel safe. People need to trust their leaders. And if they don't trust you, they're not going to work for you. They're going to work for money. And like, he has a consistent message and brand, but Like, I don't feel like he's like, oh man, I just met Wiz Khalifa, and then I was taking a poop later, and I read this thing. Like, he doesn't inundate me with stupid shit.
Right, exactly.
Like, if anything, if Simon Sinek or Seth Godin's another guy I'm a really big fan of, if they post something, and Seth Godin blogs every single day,
right,
or at least 5 days a week or whatever, it's almost always good. Mm-hmm. Like, I rarely am like, God damn it, why did you tell me that? You know what I mean? Like, and I have people, there's people you follow, or there's people you read, and you're like, that's just, I don't care. Like,
yeah,
that's why I'm not on Snapchat, is like, I like some Nicki Minaj songs, but I don't like care what it's like being on tour with her. Like, I'm not interested, right? And for some people they are, and that's because, and that's fine. But again, like, I want people, to me, art is curation, not creation.
Right.
Like, anyone can create anything. That's actually, again, really easy. What's really hard is editing. What's really hard is saying, you know what, this sucks. My own art sucks. Fuck it. I'm throwing it away.
Exactly. It's the edit. Yeah. I feel that. I mean, anybody can make a movie, but you gotta edit it together. You gotta make it a story. You gotta make it.
It's gotta
comprehensive.
resonate. It's gotta resonate with other people, and it's gotta feel authentic. It's gotta be real. And tying it into Light Treasons, I play guitar in the band and played guitar and Hark the Herald with Joel and Clay. That was our previous band together. And like, the thing that I'm trying to get better and better and better at with music is editing.
Right.
And I don't mean editing like drum edits, like tactical editing, like, you know what, that chorus does need to repeat, or it doesn't. Like, I'm really into songwriting right now and production, and I just don't give a fuck about guitar. And it's like, really, it's like, it throws people off. And I tell people, it's kind of an on-running joke that, like, if you saw me just like jamming on a guitar, you'd be like, oh, you're pretty good. Have you been playing for like 6 months now? And I'm like, I've been playing like 20 years. You'd be like, oh, you should probably give up.
You know what? That's not your forte. I guess.
If you're at this level,
that's the way I feel about me playing drums.
15, 20. But the thing is, and here's what I'm going to say about you that I'm also going to say about Joel, is what I like about you. So my favorite drummer is Corey Eves. Like, I think he's everyone's favorite drummer. Like, I could watch that dude play drums on YouTube for like 24 hours straight.
Right. Yeah.
Favorite drummer probably of all time. Also one of my favorite people. But here's the hot take. You and Joel are the type of drummers where I feel like, now granted, the type of bands Corey's been in have been driven by this, but like, I could watch you and Joel play 4 on the floor or just play like a little hi-hat ditty, and I'm like, that's what the song needed at that moment in time. Like, it's never about you, it's about the song.
Right.
And I'm the same way with guitar. Like, I write a couple leads that are kind of catchy or kind of like, oh, that was a cool little ditty, but like, you would literally never find me on Guitar Hero or like Shred magazine where they're like, look at this crazy tab that Zack Pennington wrote, and it's like, the first note's on the 3rd fret and the next one's on the 16th fret, and so like, I don't even know how to like physically do that or even write that stuff, but I feel like I know how to be like, hey, this is kind of fun.
Yeah, this appeals to you on like a primal level. That's why I always, like, when I played drums, I was like, I'm not trying to impress anyone with like my finesse or my technicality, because I'm just not that type of drummer. I'd much rather just hear a big, loud, like, drum beat that you can feel and you can relate to.
It has impact.
Exactly.
And there's music, and the other piece of that is there's music for other musicians and there's music for everyone.
Right, exactly.
And it's lame, it's mainstream or whatever. I'm like, the reason mainstream music is popular is because, again, this hot take, it's inherently good.
Right.
Like, shitty pop songs, if you actually, as a musician, deconstruct them, you're like, okay, that chord progression makes sense.
It's
like,
manufactured to appeal to a broad audience.
It is, but it's also scientifically proven to be good, right? Like, you can watch someone's brainwaves when they listen to Katy Perry, and
exactly.
Like, even like hardcore metal dudes are like, "Fuck this Katy Perry shit," and then they're like,
"That's what I listen to at the gym." I'm not a hardcore metal dude, but
like, people like it's there's just something about like super catchy melodies and super like impactful beats and things. Like, right now, like, I think rap is worse than it's ever been right now.
I agree.
And it's all beat fetishism and stuff. But at the end of the day, like, I'm like, okay, the beats are really dope right now, but like, I don't think the artists are that great. But I was listening to like Run the Jewels on the way over here, and I'm like, okay, like, those guys are fucking awesome, right?
I don't like, and I'll probably just get like some flack for it, but I don't know, man. Like, I loved rap, especially in the 90s, 2000s and stuff like that. Like, Bone Thugs and Harmony, for example, is like a group that to me is like, I mean, I grew up with them, but they continue to put out like albums that are just like above like what other people are doing. I
Right.
feel like, and then sometimes people are like, well, you should check out this group or this guy or whatever. And I listen to it. I'm just like, man, this just doesn't have like
Yeah, you should listen to
passion.
Mumbles Mulgravy. He's that new hotness, and you're like, what? Like, and then he's like, Mumble Mulgravy on them track, motherfucker. You're like, that.
See, that's what I'm saying. There's
I'm
no
like-
passion behind it. It just seems like they're just like, I mean, if that guy's mumbling, I've never heard him, but I mean,
I feel like all of them are right now. But then you can listen, like I said, you can listen to something like Run the Jewels. You can listen to, I mean, someone who I think is underrated, even though he's wildly successful, is Ludacris. I think Ludacris is
I
a
love
fucking
Ludacris.
great rapper.
I love Nelly,
And he's like
too.
a joke
You know-
rapper, right, to some people, but I'm like, but he's actually good. And he writes good songs.
I feel the same way about Nelly. I
Even
feel like
if he
Nelly
makes
was
fun
like
of
a
himself.
pop
Oh, yeah.
rapper, and I was
Yeah.
like, but that guy actually,
He's got away with words.
maybe
That young fellow.
I'm just so
rip
white.
rapper.
I think maybe that's the thing.
No, I mean, I don't know. I think like Childish Gambino again. Talk
Oh,
about,
yeah.
talk about
you go.
rappers that white people like. Like Childish Gambino is fucking awesome, right? And I know a lot of people aren't into the new record because it's too like funky and 70s sounding or whatever. But I don't know, man. I like wordplay. I like the cleverness of rap, and I think that's what always appealed to me about it. And so that's what's missing, right? Which is like if someone's like, I walked down to the store and I pulled my gat. And then I got shot at by a cop. I'm like, okay, that may or may not be a real story, but like, you didn't even rhyme
Yeah, it didn't
gat
even rhyme
with
anything.
at. Like cops came and shot me where I'm at. I'm like, okay, at least there's like A B or something, like. And I even on the way over here, I heard a lyric that I hadn't heard, or processed before, which was on one of the Run the Jewels songs where he says something to the effect of, my flow is like the ratio between heroin and laxatives, which is like opioids cause like a constipation or something. And it was just like, he said it really like fast. And I was like, wait, that's actually kind of hilarious. Like the more people, not hilarious, but you know what I mean? Like the more people that use heroin, the more people that buy laxatives. Like
That's so
he was
crazy.
making that, and I'm just like, that's one line in a 600 line song where you're just kind of like, oh shit, I never even caught that. That's pretty tight.
Yeah. Let me ask you this question. Little OT on topic, not off. We're taking OT back.
OT2.
OT2 Judgment Day.
Are we on the wagon or are we off the wagon? I can
We're gonna put it on the
remember.
line. Okay, we're gonna record this podcast. We're gonna put it on the line.
Okay,
but
off the wagon.
American on the line.
Okay.
Does it ever just really discourage you whenever you do see people on YouTube? Because you're talking about new hip hop and or new rap, and I happen to come across. Have you seen Lil Yachty? Mm-hmm. Man, I'm sure that's probably. I'm hoping that it's probably some sort of joke, but the fact that he has multiple singles,
Right.
is making me believe maybe this was serious. But when you see stuff like that and it has like 10 bazillion views on YouTube,
Bashkrillion. Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Does that ever just discourage you for I don't know, your songwriting process, or just, maybe a little bit about life in general or society in general maybe?
I would argue.
I got dark. Sorry.
No, you're fine. I would argue the opposite. I think it encourages me. And here's why it encourages me is that it's popular for a reason.
That's true.
It may not be the reason you agree with, but it's the whole 50 million Elvis fans can't be wrong, right? Like, yes, Elvis stole black music. Yes, Elvis became like a fat drug addict or whatever. Like, there's plenty of things wrong with Elvis, but at the end of the day, he made people feel joy.
Right.
Or sex, or he made them feel something that they hadn't felt before. And you could like argue all day about why he's crap, or like I'm like a unapologetic Beatles fan, and I have plenty of friends like, oh, the Beatles are overrated, and I'm like, I think the Beatles are underrated.
I agree. I think so too.
High five.
You guys,
And I'm like,
that.
and you can also like the Rolling Stones. Those aren't mutually exclusive.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's like at the end of the day, if something just because it's right doesn't mean it's popular. That whole saying, I'm going to push back on that and say, like, if people really are into that, even if they're into it because like it's so stupid, it's so silly. Like, what was the song Friday by Rebecca Black?
Yeah.
Friday, gotta get down.
Got to get down on Friday.
Gotta get down on Friday. Is that today?
Today is Friday.
So I guess we
technically,
got to
yes.
get down. All right.
Yeah,
Just the get down
We'll
part
probably
of the
get down
podcast.
later.
Joe, can you drop some get down right now? Yeah, it just like going back to what I was saying about like you, Joel, and Corey, like if it's what you want it to be and it's a good version of what you want it to be, then it's good.
Right.
Like when I watch Corey play drums, I don't watch to watch him play 4 on the floor or play like a driving heavy beat. I watch him because he's a technical monster.
Right.
Right. And similarly, if I'm wanting to hear just like a fucking, straight jamming, like super heavy, just kind of whatever, like I want to watch you do that. And if anything, if I watched you like try to do a bunch of like crazy fills and stuff, I mean, you could do it, but it's like, I don't even know if that's what I'd want or expect. You know what I mean? And
right.
And so like,
I'm more of a guy that just likes to lick his drumstick.
Yeah. Or slit your throat with the drumstick.
There you go. Perfect.
That's a great move. Or do the flex. That's the one we flex a lot in our band. But I mean, that's the whole thing is like, if it appeals to you and you like something about it, it's art. It's hard to be like, this art is good and that art is bad. It's like that
it's
art.
Subjective.
It either creates an emotion, even if you hate it, it created an emotion, right? Like people quote unquote hate Nickelback, but like at least you feel something about Nickelback.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
You're not indifferent.
Right. Yeah. Indifference is the opposite of love. Hate is not the opposite of love. Apathy is, you know what I mean?
I love this positive spin on it because now you're talking and I'm even going back and being like, huh.
I still think it sucks. Let's be clear. But I think it sucks for me.
Right, yeah.
I'm not upset that he's famous or that he's successful or that people like it for whatever reason they like it. I just don't like it.
Right.
But
It's not your cup of chai tea.
And that's all we have today. Yeah, no, I mean, like, exactly that, though, right? Is like, one of my favorite bands is Thrice. I'm actually wearing a Thrice t-shirt. So shout out to me for being an open book. But yeah, like one of my favorite bands is Thrice. And I went and saw Dustin play by himself the other day at Mercury Ballroom. And it was fucking amazing. And then Andy from Manchester Orchestra played. And I just like wasn't super into it. Mm-hmm. But I also don't listen to Manchester Orchestra. I have nothing against them or him. But it was just like this thing where I'm like, Dustin is making me feel emotions right now that I wasn't feeling prior to him playing and singing. So like that's art to me. And I just wasn't feeling those emotions for Andy, but the crowd was super into it. So I'm like, they're clearly feeling it. There's something here. It just wasn't for me. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Well, that's why there's vanilla ice cream and chocolate ice cream and strawberry ice cream.
And vanilla chai and dark roasted coffee and
plain ice. Yeah.
Butter cake coffee.
Vanilla cupcake, mocha brownie, chocolate.
Funfetti, I'm sure.
I'm sure that's probably a thing. But yeah, I guess that's true. Man, you hit me with some stuff. I'm looking at this book here that's like behind you, and it's just like haphazardly thrown up there. But it's Tim Ferriss. Are you a Tim Ferriss fan?
Yeah, I am.
You Tim Ferriss me, man. You put a positive spin on everything, and I was like, you know what?
Much to my girlfriend's chagrin, I'm a Tim Ferriss fan.
You Tim Ferrissed me on the podcast.
I,
Much to your girlfriend's chagrin.
I think a lot, yeah. So
you just have these ideas?
No, the short version of it is they both went to Princeton, and she said he reminds her of every douchey know-it-all that she went to Princeton with.
I guess I could see that.
And I was like, but he actually is pretty smart. Like, he actually knows what he's talking about. And she's like, yeah, but I spent 4 years with those guys. Like, fuck those guys. So
she's got a personal beef. Tim Ferriss, if you're listening right now,
Joanna, a.k.a. JC Cruz, is coming for you.
We got to settle this beef in an axe-throwing competition.
Oh, man. If I could throw axes with Tim Ferriss, I'd be pretty happy. You're invited if you're listening. I know you are because you don't do anything with your time. You're a super lazy really and bored human being. So
yep, you're like 4 books deep. You got a podcast every day, an inspirational blog.
Yeah, people. It's so funny is people are like the 4-hour work week, and I'm like, Tim Ferriss works 24-hour work weeks, right? Like,
yeah,
it's like, yeah, he could work 4 hours a week, but he doesn't because he's an addict. He's addicted to doing stuff. So I
want to be that motivated.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. I'm weird. I'm weird because I'm super lazy, but I love doing stuff. So I overcome.
I love the idea of setting goals and hitting goals, but I am like, I gotta be honest with you, I am lazy by nature. So, just that's something that I've worked on in the past like 10 years, where it's just like I need to put my nose to the grindstone. I need to make this work. That's what this podcast is all about, man. Consistency.
Yep.
And
if you care about it, it's easier.
I agree.
It's still hard because it's work, but if you care, then the motivation is the hardest part of any task. You can learn how to do anything. You can get help doing anything. But if you're not motivated to do it, forcing yourself to be motivated fucking sucks.
I agree. That's what I love about this. I just really, it took me a while to get started because I had my doubts. Because I was always like, well, just like in our world right now, it's like I was afraid to put myself out there. You know what I'm saying? Because a podcast is pretty personal. Yep. Before I was like hidden behind a drum set.
Right.
I was a guy, and all I had to do is get my picture taken.
Yeah,
that was
persona
basically
that
the most.
Could be whatever you wanted it to be.
Exactly. that was like the most exposure I had, was just getting my picture taken, for the most part. Right. Didn't really interact in social media, whatever. And so having this podcast, it was one of those things where I was like, man, I don't know if I'm ready to put myself out there. And I'm telling you this story because I had a friend of mine that wants to start a podcast.
Right.
And they were going through the exact same thing. Like, I'm just so nervous to put myself out there. And I just had to say, you know what, though? If you love it, if it's something that you want to do, once you do it, once you put yourself out there, you'll become more fearless, and you'll become you'll be able to speak more freely. Yeah. And but that motivates me. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is something that I love to do. It took me a while to get started, but once I did it, now it's not work to me. I enjoy it. I enjoy getting up early, going to Dunkin Donuts, getting some fancy coffee, and having a good conversation before I have to go to my 9-to-5 job, aka my 12 to 9 job.
For me, someone, I don't know who said this, but I'm going to quote it and say I said it because my bandmates make fun of me for doing that. But the saying is that doubt has killed more ideas, or I'm trying to remember how to say it now. It's doubt has killed more ideas than failure ever has. Right? It's
deep.
People who have tried and failed, like, just keep going. If they do, like, that creates everything in the world.
Right.
But people who go, I don't know if I should, creates nothing. You know what I mean? Like, everything around you is someone who thought, I should try this, and some of it is success. But, like, people who are, like, afraid of trying have literally never accomplished anything. And that's what I think about, is, like, I just want to do hood rat stuff with my friends.
Exactly. And on that
ZP.
ZP. I just want to... Exactly. And, guys, that's going to be it for us today. We're going to wrap it up. Before we go, though, ZP,
yes, sir.
Zack Attack, why don't you tell everybody where they can find Flying Axes, your location,
sure.
Tell people about Light Treasons, give all the deets about Herelancer. It's your time to plug all the holes, buddy.
Yeah. So fortunately, all of those businesses have the .com of their name. So
they're on the line.
Yeah, so they're on the line, off the wagon, and on OT, off topic. Anyway, lighttreasons.com, flyingaxes.com, herelancer.com. All of them are on Facebook. All of them are on Twitter. I'm probably easiest to get a hold of either on Facebook or Twitter. So just Zack Pennington, ZACK. And I like people. I'm a people person. I'm usually really quick to help someone if they ask for help. I'm busy, but I'm flexible. So if you ever need anything, shoot me a message. And
I've seen you at the gym, man. Super flexible.
Yeah, you got to be something. If you
when
can't
you're on that pommel horse,
if you can't be strong or fast, just put your leg behind your head.
There you go. That's life advice from a guy that knows a lot about living.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for having me. I'm excited. I've been listening since episode 1 with my good buddy Clay, so I'm excited.
I'm glad that you came on here. And let me ask you too, just one more time before we leave. What is some advice that you could give anybody that's trying to start up maybe a new business or a project, or they have a goal in mind? What is your advice for succeeding? Number
one piece of advice right here, because there's a lot, right?
Here's a juicy hot tip.
Hot tip. Tim Ferriss, if you're listening. Number one piece of advice is tell everyone your idea. I think the average person thinks that their idea is really special and that it's really secret and sacred, and that if they tell anyone, it'll be stolen and it will fail and they will have given away the Facebook,
or they'll look stupid if it does fail.
Or
that was
anything,
always my thing.
Anything. And it has been my experience that 99% of the time, I'm sure it's happened that someone told an idea and something got stolen, but the other 99 times out of 100, if you tell people your idea, they'll offer to help. They'll give you feedback. They might buy stuff from you. They might support you. They might criticize you, but positively, like saying you should try to do things differently. I've just I can't even think of a time that I heard of someone sharing their idea with people and getting feedback, or saying I'm going to do this, or I'm doing this now, or I'm thinking about this, or I had this idea. I can't imagine a time, I can't remember a single time where that's ever been a negative thing. And it's this weird thing where I think we naturally are like really guarded, like you're saying about the podcast. Like, but if I tell someone about my podcast, then they'll steal my podcast.
Yeah, or they'll think I'm stupid.
And they'll think I'm dumb. And it's like, you know what? Every person that's really successful, people thought they were stupid. Every person who, has an idea thinks it's going to get stolen. And the reality is, like, I mean, email me, call me, whatever. I will give you the 40 most recent good, quote unquote, good ideas that I've had. I'll just tell you all of them. Because one of two things is going to happen, right? Either A, you're not going to do fucking anything with it, right? Which is what most people do.
Right.
Or B, you're going to be like, that is a great idea. I should run with it. And I'm like, awesome. Now that thing exists in the world and I wanted it to exist and I didn't have to do anything to make it exist. Now I can go be a patron of your company, right? Like, go start, I'm starting an axe throwing venue. Go start a fucking lawn darts venue or go start a Ninja Stars venue and I'll come hang out there, right? Like, I'm not going to be butthurt that you stole my idea. You know what I mean? Like, that whole concept of the idea being valuable, like, execution is everything. Try stuff, try it as quickly and as cheaply as you can, and tell fucking everybody. It doesn't matter, man.
I love it.
Yeah. It's the worst thing that's going to happen is you'll be killed by aliens.
That's the worst case scenario.
And once you realize that,
once you realize the WCS,
yeah, if you've come to terms with the fact that aliens are going to blow up the earth soon or whatever, then like, who cares if your stupid podcast fails, right? Like,
exactly.
Who fucking cares? And yeah, like, you never hear stories about it. Like, hey, remember that guy who didn't try that thing? Man, that was awesome.
That's true.
Like your stories with Kevin, like you guys just started a broach. None of the stories were like, remember that time where we drove to that venue 7 hours straight and we didn't have a flat tire and we got there on time and we got paid and the kids liked the music? Like, no, fuck that story.
Exactly.
It never happened. And then
right.
B, fuck
we
that
never
story.
got paid. And we never got there without the van breaking down. That's for sure.
I hate listening to success stories, man. Talk to me about your struggles, right? Success is boring. Success is not interesting.
Dude, failure is where the winning happens.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
or it happens right after failure.
Yeah, basically. But that's where you learn.
Right.
That's how you learn how to win.
Exactly.
Failure is where you learn how to win.
And your education is all you can take with you.
Exactly.
Day to day. If you're like Tim Ferriss would probably say this. If Tim Ferriss lost all his money tomorrow, he'd be rich 2 years from now. Like, he's learned so much from what he does that even though he has money, he doesn't need it because he could literally just make more tomorrow with all the skills and you know what I mean? And like, that's what's valuable. The money itself isn't that valuable. If you got a huge inheritance and you never learned how to do anything and you blew all your money on like coke and whores,
yeah,
what do you do next?
Exactly.
That's what happens to all these pro athletes.
Yeah.
Right? They learn one skill, they make a lot of money, they get hurt, they lose the money, they can't do anything else because they never developed a skill or a network or anything else to be valuable, and it's a hard position to be in. So just try and learn, and then you'll get more valuable. Even if like my net worth goes up and down every single day, mostly down, but but my like personal value, I feel like keeps going up.
I agree. Every failure is like a tool for your tool belt, and you got to be Al Borland out there.
Yeah,
you got to have your flannel, your beard, and your tool belt.
You got to be Batman.
Exactly.
Do
you think Al Borland might be Batman?
That would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Why he has abs on the outside of the suit.
Yeah. And not on the inside.
Yeah.
All right, guys. This has been the Sean vs. Wild podcast. Check it out, SeanVsWild.com, Twitter at Sean vs. Wild, Instagram at Sean vs. Wild podcast. And of course, it's on iTunes, Stitcher, and anywhere else you get your podcast. Zach, thanks so much for being here, buddy.
Yeah, man. Thanks for the iced. Or no, it wasn't iced, just the regular chai latte.
Vanilla.
It was vanilla.
Chai.
It was clutch. Shout out to Dunkin Donuts for sponsoring this podcast.
For the clutch latte.
Thanks,
all right, guys. Thanks for tuning in.